First thing, a little additive which Andrew might like to incorporate into his speech if he's listening. No, he's not paying attention to me. Andrew.
Andrew.
That's something you might like to incorporate into your talk. Something important about justice concepts. Do you know that the word fair that we use all the time does not exist in most other foreign languages? They do not have the word fair as we understand it. They only have the word just. Now, this might not seem like a big deal, but it really is very, very important. If something goes wrong, and you're down a local pub, you can get together and you can say that was fair or that was not fair. You can instantly make that judgment amongst yourselves. In the European context, where it's a matter of right or legal, they have to refer to a higher authority, whether it's a judge or God. They can't make that decision themselves. Right? Fundamental difference that's very, very important. They can't understand fairness because they don't have the word for it. Okay, anyway, back to what I was going to say. I'm standing as the council candidate for Roundham High, which is a large part of Paynton. A very diverse part of the bay, contains all the main shopping centres, a lot of housing, the railway, the bus station, the library. It's a really diverse thing. But what I've been asked to talk about is the harbour. Paynton has one of the three harbours of the bay. It's a very unusual harbour in many ways. It's a portside entry, which probably won't mean much to most of you, but it means that you have to drive your boat into it on the wrong side. It's one of the very, very few harbours in the country that do that. It's also a completely drying out harbour. At low tide, there is no water in the harbour. So that makes for some problems. Okay, so we'll skip that page. We've got rid of that one. That was nice and quick. Now I need my glasses so I can read the next page because I can't remember what it said on it. I'm going to the last slide. So, one of the harbour is, it's been in decline for many, many years, but at the moment there actually is a sense of optimism to some extent about it. It still is a working harbour. There still are active fishing boats in there and ferries. There's lots of business around harbour, boat repairs, boat sales, pubs, cafes. It's also a community hub. There are lots of community activities going on there. There's a scout space, there's sports clubs, sailing, rowing, there's bars, cafes, restaurants. It really is quite an important community place for the locals, because most of the tourists don't even find the place. They come down and they sit on the beach and walk up and down the promenade, but they don't actually go through. There's a little archway for those of you who know the place that you've got to walk through to actually get to see that the harbour's even there. So it's a terribly important place for local people and for local businesses, but it's not really incorporated into the tourist area at all. However, we are a small group of people are very actively trying to change that at the moment, and there's quite an optimism. We've got a Harbour Festival coming up this August, first one as far as we can tell has ever been held. We've got a lot of stalls, music, bars going to be coming. So there's a real chance that this little area of Paynton can actually start coming back up. So we've got a lot of improvements coming on the line. I've been asked to mention something about fishing, because obviously it's kind of important around here. Now, although Paignton might not be the biggest harbour or getting the greatest value of money coming into it through the fishing, nevertheless it's important to us. And we can trace the decline of our harbours way back to 1970, when apparently just 6 hours before negotiations began for the UK to join into Europe, they introduced the concept of free and equal access to all the member states' waters. 6 hours before we joined, they stitched it up so that we would not have any say in that matter. Now, the next bit of that one, having stitched it up so that we had to allow people to enter our water from anywhere in Europe, bearing in mind that our territorial waters at the time contained 80% of the fish stocks of Europe, we were given just 37% of the quota. That was it. Here's the beginning of the end for our fishing harvest. Here locally and across the nation, that's where it starts. Then, a little while later, in 1991, the European Court of Justice ruled that we could not keep even this 37% of the quota for our own fishing boats. It had to be available to be sold to anyone who owned a fishing boat anywhere across Europe, right? So that little bit of quota was suddenly reduced. 43% of our existing quota is now held by overseas fishing boats.
Yeah.
We now import £2.66 billion worth of fish each year. Most of that is actually caught in our waters, transported and landed in mainland Europe, processed, put back on a boat, sent to us so that we can pay for it. So, if we leave Europe, or rather, when we leave Europe, we can reclaim our 12-mile limit and our 200-mile exclusive economic zone, which is allowable under international law. And imagine the benefits. Not just do we not spend £2.66 million a year importing fish, but we can rebuild our fishing fleet and the associated industry, and employ people and export fish and make some money.
Like Norway does.
Yeah, like Norway does. That's the one. To put this in a local context, Wrexham has long had a plan for a northern arm on the harbour to protect it from certain wind directions, okay? We can't afford it. They've got the money. But if we leave, when we leave the EU, we can rebuild our fishing fleet, rebuild the associated industries, and all that revenue will, of course, be taxed, paid to the Harbour Authority, because there's a levy on all the fish that are sold in Wrexham. A percentage of that comes to the Harbour Authority. That would give us the money. We would be able to afford, and we would actually be able to justify that Northern Arm being built. It's not going to happen unless we leave the EU. That's it. Well done.